to another episode of the Draft Dynasty Podcast. My name is Jeremy Betz, and it's just going to be me tonight, but we're going to have some fun. We're going to dive right into this thing because I want to do a fantasy mock draft with you guys tonight, and I am currently in the lobby of an ESPN fantasy football mock draft here, and we're going to break this thing down. It's going to be a lot of fun. I thought I was going to have someone with me tonight, and we'll do it again another time here with multiple people to make it a little bit more intriguing, but just some thoughts on how a draft would go from my perspective, and some of the fantasy assets that I'm targeting. This ESPN league is going to be drafting in about 3 minutes here. It's just a mock draft here, I guess I should say, not a league, but I will be drafting third overall in a 10-team PPR snake redraft league. So pretty standard. It's going to be a lot of fun, though, and I hope you'll be able to stay for the whole thing and get some good information out of this. Corey Eckenroth was going to join me tonight to do this, but he is running behind schedule-wise, and so we are just doing this, just me, myself, and I here from the Asheville area of North Carolina, but you get to join me, and that's the fun part. So if you're scrolling by on X and you see the live broadcast of this, you can hop onto my X account and see that. Or obviously this show, as part of the Fans First Sports Network, it's going to be available wherever you get your podcasts, audio, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. And then you can probably check out a video version of this as well on YouTube. So stay tuned. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to dive into this. We're going to have a lot of good picks, and hopefully most everybody will be making actual picks, and there won't be too many auto picks here, but it's going to be fun, and we're going to take this one step at a time. When I draft, I have been throughout the years very, very running back heavy in the early portions of my drafts. It's just one of those things that there are less of these guys that make an impact on a weekly basis in a big time way than there are big time high scoring wide receivers. So I usually put an emphasis on the running backs. There's a lot of good receivers this year. You can take a zero running back approach this year, load up on receivers, and get some decent running backs later. I'm not going to try that tonight, I don't think, unless I just get some guys land in my lap. But the way I'm probably going to approach this is running backs early. If a quarterback it really intrigues me early that I feel like I can't miss at a good value, then I will take that early. One of those tight ends, the top 2 or 3 guys at tight end are very intriguing early because it's such a drop off to the next guys on that list. So we'll see how this plays out, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm just using the standard rankings from ESPN here. If you go to ESPN Fantasy Football, I'm doing it on my desktop. I do it from my phone a lot. By this point in the off season, I've probably done 20 mock drafts, right? And I try to switch it up and go from various spots. This one loaded me in at pick number 3, so I just stayed here. And I think it's an interesting spot, right? You've got the chance to land a really good wide receiver, really good running back early, and there's a chance to start off and build a good roster. Then you have to wait all these picks, right? As the snake comes around and it waits to get to you again, but then you pick again pretty quickly. So I have the 3rd overall pick, and that means, let's see here, it would be the 18th overall pick coming back around. So oh, here we go. We are on the clock here in just a couple seconds here. 30 seconds per pick. Okay, I'm on the clock now. So the first 2 picks were Jamar Chase and looks like Bijan Robinson. So I have my pick of Justin Jefferson or Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs. This is really close for me, but you know what? I think I'm going with a running back. I really do. And I think Saquon's going to be the guy again this year. So I'm going to take Saquon Barkley with my first pick here. I like Justin Jefferson, but I like what I can come around and get in the second round at wide receiver as well. So I'm just going to wait at wide receiver. So I took Saquon Barkley. I think that a lot of people are concerned that he won't be able to live up to what he put up last year because it was just so astounding. And I don't know. I guess I don't believe that. I think that he's designed and built for this offense. I think the offensive line leads the way, and he doesn't take much of a beating in the backfield. And I, that Eagles team is going to be special again. They're going to be really good again. They're probably going to be a Super Bowl contender once again. So I have no qualms whatsoever with taking him at this spot. So Saquon Barkley, don't be afraid to add him to your roster. It was really close. I wanted Jahmyr Gibbs potentially as well. He went the pick right after me. Justin Jefferson went at pick number 5. CeeDee Lamb at pick 6. Ashton Genty at 7, Christian McCaffrey at 8, Derrick Henry gets in the first round at 9, and Puka Nacua is the last pick of the 10th round or of the first round at pick 10. And the snake back is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So the 10 spot got 2 top wide receivers with their first 2 picks, and we are rolling here. I've got 5 picks till my next one. Now make it 4. Devon Achane is off the board. Malik Neighbors is off the board. Oh, my guy, Brian Thomas Jr. is off the board. I would love to have Brian Thomas Jr. as my wide receiver 1 this year. I really believe that he and Trevor Lawrence are going to put up some insane numbers, and I'm excited for that. Nico Collins goes next here. I'm on the clock in 2 picks. The wide receivers are coming off the board. So that I like that for me. I like the running backs that are still available. Jonathan Taylor just goes, and A.J. Brown right after him. So I am up next, and I've got a couple running backs I could go for again, but I've got a guy that I don't know if I can pass up here. Brock Bowers is still available as we're turning here on the second into the third round, and I just don't know if I can pass this up, and so I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Brock Bowers, and this is what I was talking about at the start of the show. These tight ends, after Brock Bowers and Trey McBride and George Kittle, I just don't like the tight end group. I don't, and there were some guys a little bit later that I have some high hopes for, but one of those guys just got sniped in a different way, not picked here, but Pat Freiermuth. He's now working in tandem with another Pro Bowl type tight end now that the Pittsburgh Steelers have made that trade. So I am on the clock here again now. Since my pick of Brock Bowers, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams, and James Cook, a lot of those running backs that I really like. So I'm going to go ahead and take a receiver here. I'm going to take Drake London, who's still available here as we turned into the third round, and I love this. Saquon Barkley, Drake London, and Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is going to give you like wide receiver 1 type numbers at the tight end spot. And Drake London is primed for a huge year, an absolutely monstrous year in this offense where Michael Penix, I think, is going to take a step. And I'm telling you what, this Falcons offense, don't sleep on them. I wrote an article a little while back that this Falcons offense is one I'm buying in on for 2025 for fantasy. They've got a lot of really good weapons, and Michael Penix Jr. is going to play well, I think, this year within the structure that Zach Robinson puts together. Bijan Robinson is going to be amazing. If he had lasted to pick number 3, that's who I would have taken over Saquon Barkley. I just love what he's going to bring to the table here. I really like my team so far. Saquon Barkley leading the way at running back, Drake London, Brock Bowers. And if I'm going to stick with kind of my typical theme, I'm probably going to look at some of these running backs as it comes around to my turn again here. But since my selection of Drake London, Tyreek Hill, Ladd McConkey, Chase Brown, Trey McBride, tight end 2, comes off the board. And our first quarterback, Jaden Daniels, gets selected in round 3, pick number 8. A little high for Daniels for me. I would have taken either of Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson before him. Devonta Adams, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, and then Lamar Jackson does go at this point. Ooh, we've got an early pick of Rashee Rice, who's climbing up ADPs right now, very obviously because he was so good last year in the 3 games that he played. He was a sleeper for me, but he's not a sleeper anymore. But I shouldn't even say sleeper. He was like early round steal, right? Where he might be one of these guys who leads the league in fantasy points at the receiver position, even though he's not going in the top 3 rounds. So round 4, pick 3, Rashid Rice goes. Josh Allen is off the board now, and T. Higgins, and I'm up in 2 picks. Got some running backs on the board. I got Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Breece Hall still out here. Marion Hampton. We'll talk about some of the rookies as we go, but I'm not super high on taking a Marion Hampton in the 4th round as my RB2. I don't feel great about that. I actually like Kenneth Walker better there. I don't know how I feel about Joe Mixon this year. There's some issues there I think I see. I could go ahead and get Jalen Hurts, who's still available here. But you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to stick with my love of the running back position, and I'm going to draft Kenneth Walker III as my RB2. And I think he's primed for a big year if he can stay healthy. The Seahawks offense is going to run the ball as much as anybody in the league this year. Sam Darnold needs a strong running game, a good play action game to play his best. So you're going to see a lot of Kenneth Walker if he can stay healthy. And he's so talented. I really wish that he has been able to stay healthy more than he has. It's unfortunate, really. I think he'd be one of the best backs in the league already and going much higher in fantasy drafts than this if he had stayed healthy throughout his career. Since Kenneth Walker, Terry McLaurin, George Kittle, tight end 3, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith, and Jigba have all come off the board. All right, I talked about this as a fun stack, and it's a little different. Sometimes you want to stack wide receivers and quarterbacks, right? That's kind of what we think about, or tight ends and quarterbacks. I'm going to stack a running back and a quarterback because of what they do on the goal line. I'm taking Jalen Hurts here. He's still on the board, and I think that, for the quarterback position, I could have waited. I could have gotten other good quarterbacks down the road and probably some better skill position players here. I don't care. I want those touchdowns. I want the goal line touchdowns, and if Saquon Barkley's not getting them, Jalen Hurts is getting them. So I've just guaranteed myself with this stack all of the short yardage touchdowns in the Eagles offense, and there are a ton of them. All right? There are a ton of them. So, and I like the rush upside, obviously, is better than a lot of the pocket passes you're going to get here in a little bit. I mean, two picks after I took Hurts goes Joe Burrow, and I'd much rather have Hurts than Burrow on my fantasy team. Chuba Hubbard is off the board now, and he is a guy that I thought about actually with this last pick, and maybe should have taken. If I didn't have Saquon Barkley, then Jalen Hurts, I probably wouldn't have scooped Jalen Hurts up. I probably would have waited, and I probably would have taken Chuba Hubbard. The Panthers love to run the football. The head coach there, who came over from the Buccaneers, and I apologize, his name is escaping me at this juncture. But his Dave Canales, that's who it is. Dave Canales, his entire offense is predicated on volume in the running game and working the passing game off of that. Lots of play action, lots of boots, lots of RPOs, and Chuba Hubbard's going to get a lot of carries, especially with Jonathan Brooks still injured, probably missing the entire season here. Chuba Hubbard is kind of a steal probably at this point. And he went round 5, pick 8. Yeah, that's an absolute steal in my opinion. And since after Chuba Hubbard, Mike Evans is off the board. DJ Moore is off the board. DK Metcalf is off the board. Caleb Johnson goes here in the 6th round with the first pick of the 6th round. And I like that. I think by the end of the year, by the middle of the season, probably Caleb Johnson's going to be leading this team in carries. And I'm on the clock here in just a second. Sam Laporta and TJ Hawkinson go back-to-back. Jalen Waddle, who's going to get more targets now that Jonathan Smith is gone. Xavier Worthy's off the board. Zay Flowers is off the board. But I've got a couple guys that I really like for this year in their offenses. And it's a couple rookies. It's RJ Harvey, Quinshon Judkins that are up next here in the running back pecking order. And I've got to say, I'm going to ride with RJ Harvey. I think that Sean Payton went out, sought out this guy, and he's going to have a very Alvin Kamara-like role on this team. Now, is he Alvin Kamara? We don't know. But volume and opportunity is the name of the game in fantasy. And as my RB3, my flex right now, sitting in my flex spot, I love RJ Harvey. The upside is absolutely there for RB1 type numbers, and I'm gonna ride with that. All right, I've got David Montgomery on the board as I'm now on the clock. Devonta Smith, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, Senior, Roma Dunze, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley. You know what? I think I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley here. I need another wide receiver. He's going to be my wide receiver 2 now. And my favorite thing about Calvin Ridley is he is a clear-cut wide receiver 1 for a team that just got a massive upgrade at quarterback. Massive upgrade at quarterback with the first overall pick in the draft. He makes a ton of sense as a wide receiver 2. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get the targets. And I think that he's going to maximize that, even though he's not going to probably live up to the expectations we had for him when it comes to his early career, having missed some time now due to the off-the-field issues, right? And now he's come back and been productive. I like that as my wide receiver too. I'm going to take that all day right now. All right, while we're waiting for me to come back around the board again, still got 10 picks until my next selection. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. The Draft Dynasty Podcast will continue right after this with more of this live fantasy football mock draft. All right, welcome back to the Draft Dynasty Podcast. It's Jeremy Betz here with you, working solo tonight. Had to make some adjustments after my podcast partner was unable to make it for the show tonight. We're 17 minutes into the show. We're about 7 rounds into a fantasy draft here on through ESPN. It's a 10-team PPR mock snake draft. Standard redraft league from ESPN. I'm on the clock in 2 picks here again, and my roster right now is looking pretty good. I'll get to my roster here in just a second, but I've got a pick to make here, and I've got a good starting group so far, but I need to start adding some depth. I really do need to start adding some pieces to my bench to add some depth here. And there's a few guys up next that I really like. I am on the clock in 8 seconds here. Matthew Golden, Isaiah Pacheco, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Javonte Williams, Cooper Kupp, Ramondre Stevenson, Jalen Warren. These are all guys that are up here on the board. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the wide receiver 1. Actually, that is not what I'm going to do. Folks, I'm going to take Jalen Warren. I've been talking about how I want to load up on running backs because I think there's more useful wide receivers here. And so I didn't want to miss out on this guy. He's my RB4, and I love that. He's going to be a solid flex player for most of the year, I believe, with the volume that he's going to get and the role he's going to have in PPR league specifically. And my boy, my Steelers, Jalen Warren, he's going to touch the ball a lot, even with Caleb Johnson, who I think will command a lot of the touches at some point this year. I really like what I see out of him. I probably need a wide receiver here, and I'm going to go with Khalil Shakir out of Buffalo. The wide receiver 1 in Buffalo right now is probably Shakir. He's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to work the field, and I really think that he's going to be a player this year, and I like it. So I've got on my team right now, my starting lineup, Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Saquon Barkley, got the Eagles stacked there for the rushing, and I think that it's one of the more intriguing stacks that you can have in 2025, and it's an untraditional one as well. Kenneth Walker's my RB2. Drake London and Calvin Ridley are my starting receivers. Brock Bowers, I landed Brock Bowers. Don't forget, I get wide receiver 1 type production from my tight end. So it's like having a bonus wide receiver 1, Brock Bowers at tight end. And then RJ Harvey's in the flex right now, followed by Jalen Warren and Khalil Shakir on my bench. 3 wide receivers, 4 running backs, a quarterback and a tight end is what makes up my roster so far. And we're getting into the portion of a late night draft here where a lot of these picks are going to auto pick. Since I made the selection of Jaylen Warren, Isaiah Pacheco, Matthew Golden, Jordan Addison, Mark Andrews. Oh, I'm sorry. I made the Khalil Shakir pick since then. So it's Shakir, Baker Mayfield, Chris Olave, Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Javonte Williams, Tyrone Tracy, Evan Ingram. Love the Evan Ingram pick at tight end. He's a guy who could surprise and be one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in the league, even though he's being drafted in the 9th round here. Pick 10 of the 9th round, last pick of the 9th round. And then Stephon Diggs, Ramondre Stevenson, and Keon Coleman are all off the board now. I'm on the clock here in just a second, and there's a guy I've got my eye on I really want on my roster that I'm going to take if I have a chance to here, if he's still available. I'm almost did it last round, but I wanted to see if he would make it to me, and it's a wide receiver. I am on the clock, and he's still available. It's Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, he might miss a game or two to start the season, but man alive, if he comes back healthy at some point this year, he is just flat out scary as a high volume, heavy target receiver for a dynamic Buccaneers offense. And I really like my wide receiver room all of a sudden here too. I'm back on the clock again. And you know what? I want some just steady play. I just want a guy who's going to get the rock a ton at this point. And I'm going to take Brian Robinson Jr. Great running back value here in the 11th round for me. 11th round 11, pick 3. He's my 5th running back. Brian Robinson Jr. is my 5th running back. I love it. I do. And this is a 10-team mock draft, so it's not the deepest league, right? We're gonna have some good players on the bench, but I'm feeling really good about this team. I really am. My bench now: Jaylen Warren, Brian Robinson Jr., Khalil Shakir, and Chris Godwin. And Chris Godwin is my wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. I'll take it. I'll take that all day, every day. I think this is a guy with wide receiver 2 upside in 2025. And right now he's my wide receiver 4. So I feel pretty good about that. I'll be up on the clock again in 2 picks. A couple intriguing guys who have gone here. Ricky Pearsall for San Francisco. He's going to get wide receiver 2 snaps over there, and that's been fairly productive for whoever that has been over the last few years, as long as they've been a good player. So Ricky Pearsall is a lot of fun. J.K. Dobbins in Denver, I don't love that. I don't love the pick. I don't love picking him this year. I would just stay away from that fully. There's some other guys in this range that I like a lot better than that. Specifically, some like a Trey Benson out of Arizona, who was a highly touted rookie last year, but just didn't see the rock. If James Conner, who's aging and injury prone in the past, goes down, he's a guy that could get a lot of work. I'm tempted here. I'm back on the clock. I'm tempted to take Emeka Egbuka for a while. Chris Godwin is questionable to start the season. But you know what? I think I'm going to take kind of a boomer bust player here. I'm going to take me some Rashid Shaheed in for the Saints. And here's why. I'm taking some boomer bust here because every now and then you just need a guy who might go off to fill in for you on a rough week where you got a lot of buys and the waiver wire is just not good. And you want to maximize your upside on those weeks. Shaheed gives me that ability to maximize my upside there. Let's see here. We're getting close to the back end of this draft. I've got 2 bench spots left. I've got a defense special teams unit to pick and a kicker. I usually wait till the end. I'm going to go look at the defense special teams units real quick. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the Steelers defense at this point, just so I have a good defense one. I usually take defense over kicker when I get to the end of drafts here. And I just kind of want to see what's available to me, right? At the end, see what kind of value I can get for my last couple bench spots. But I don't want to sacrifice my starter capability by doing that. So I'm going to take my defense special teams here first and kind of wait on that, see what's available to me. to fill out my final couple bench spots, and then I'll probably take a kicker last. Kickers, I usually end up streaming them anyway, so outside of landing some super insanely consistent guy, which you can still get one of those guys with your last pick in the draft, no problem. I feel pretty good about that. So, all right, I am on the clock again. This is my third to last pick. I got 3 picks left. I've got Adam Thielen available to me. I've got Trey Benson available. At this point, I've got an even mix of wide receivers and running backs. So I'm going to make an upside play here, and I'm going to go with Roschon Johnson from the Bears, kind of as my bench, as a back into the bench running back. DeAndre Swift played for Ben Johnson before in Detroit, and Ben Johnson moved on from him as quickly as possible, really. So Roschon Johnson might get some work with DeAndre Swift being the only guy in front of him really in that Chicago Bears backfield. And we know that in Detroit, Ben Johnson loved to play multiple running backs. So maybe this guy gets a lot of carries. And then at this point, do I want a wide receiver? I think I am going to take Adam Thielen because he was such a big deal with Carolina for that the last portion of the season when Bryce Young went off. So yeah, I'm going to take those guys. And I've got myself a fun roster here. I'm going to take a picture of it before this goes away so I can break it down at the end. And I'd love to get y'all's grades of my fantasy roster on X. I'm back on the clock for my last pick, and I got to pick a kicker. Who's available to me? I got Kaimi Fairbairn from Houston, Joshua Carty from the Rams, Harrison Butker's still on here, Cairo Santos from Chicago, Daniel Carlson, Matt Gay. I don't know. This is tough. I might go, let's see. I'm going to go with Matt Gay for a Washington offense that just gets down the field and scores points. So I'm going to take Matt Gay, and I'm going to end up streaming these guys anyway. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun when we get to real live drafts. I have had a real draft at this point, and already, and it was fun to kind of take an early swing at some of these guys. We'll see how that team does compared to the guys that I will draft at my normal time at around the end of August when it's really heating up, end of preseason. Most of the preseason injury concerns are out of the way, and we're looking ahead to these teams actually being what they are. But man, this was fun. I hope you enjoyed drafting along with me here. I'm going to go over my team real quick. I think it's a good squad, and I kind of go back and explain a couple of the selections here. But my first overall pick was Saquon Barkley, and that was third overall actually in the draft. But I love Saquon Barkley again this year, and like I said, he had more yards before contact than all but like one running back, and that was I think it was Derrick Henry last year. Let me rephrase that. He had more yards before contact than any running back had total yards, except for Derrick Henry last year. So I think that, the wear and tear aspect of this for having 470 touches last year, I don't think it's a big deal for Saquon. He's built for this. He is. And this offense is built for him. That offensive line is really good. I love him as my first overall pick. Second round pick, I took Brock Bowers. I wanted that tight end. He was still available to me, sitting there. And he's going to give me wide receiver 1 type production. I mentioned this while we were drafting from the tight end spot. And there's like 2 guys who are going to do that for you. And he might be on a whole nother level than anybody else. So I really like having him in my tight end room. Drake London was my third pick. And he gives me a true stud, I think, at wide receiver 1. He was the highest scoring wide receiver over the final 5 games of the season last year. Was just a total monster, especially with Michael Penix under center. I think that keeps up this year. Kenneth Walker and Calvin Ridley are my RB2 and wide receiver 2, respectively. I got to say, I like both of those guys. I don't necessarily love it, but I took Jalen Hurts, right? I took Brock Bowers. I took some less valued positions early because I like the players there. I like my stack with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. I think it's really fun to look at that and say, I'm going to get these rushing touchdowns no matter what now. I've got the two leading touchdown scorers on the ground in football from the running back position and the quarterback position. So I'm getting all those touchdowns on my roster. And then Brock Bowers obviously kind of gives me another wide receiver one. Calvin Ridley, I think, with Cam Ward as his quarterback is going to be lights out this year as just a very solid week-to-week player with some upside in PPR leagues specifically. He's going to get a lot of targets as their wide receiver one there in Tennessee. RJ Harvey's my flex. I like that. I'm relying on a rookie there a little bit, but right behind him, I've got Jalen Warren, Khalil Shakir, Chris Godwin once he gets healthy, Brian Robinson Jr. Any one of those guys could be a flex on any given week. So in a 10-team league, I like that. Then I got some boomer bust here. I've got Rashid Shaheed, who I can plug in if I need kind of a flex guy that can just maximize my upside in any given week. If I'm missing a player or two due to injury or due to bye weeks. Roshan Johnson, there's a lot of upside there in this Ben Johnson offense. I think that he's going to be a guy that gets the rock. He's going to see the ball. So Roshan Johnson gets a draw for me there. And then my final bench spot is Adam Thielen. Again, highly productive, high volume type receiver for Bryce Young in Carolina. And then my defense is the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. They're going to get a lot of sacks again this year. They're going to force a lot of turnovers. Jalen Ramsey, as a part of this defense now, is going to help the Steelers defense attack from the front five guys rushing the passer. Going to wreak a lot of havoc, force a lot of turnovers. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's gone, yeah, and we associate him with a lot of turnovers. It just hasn't been the case for the Steelers the last few years. So I still like the Steelers defense. And then kicker, fun. I got Matt Gay from Washington. Very solid kicker. I swear to you guys, I do not start a kicker more than a week at a time, hardly ever, unless he's just like on a tear. So very matchup based, very much a streaming position there. I love it. I don't have to stream quarterback. I don't have to stream tight end. I feel really good about that. And I feel good about my depth overall. So tell me what you think. Hit me up on X at thebets93 at THEBETZ93. We'll talk about this. I'll post my mock draft here when the show goes live on Friday morning. So check it out. Share with your friends. Like, subscribe to the YouTube channel for Fans First Sports Network. Like this podcast if you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify, or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iTunes. Like it. It helps us out with the algorithms, and we really appreciate it. Tune into SteelCurtainNetwork.com and FFSN.com for my written work as well. Just came out with my June notebook on Wednesday, so check that out. Drop some nuggets from what I've been seeing across the league that were intriguing to me. And then continuing, if you're a Steelers fan, my position by position look at the roster and kind of the best and worst case scenarios for each group there. So check it all out. Stay tuned for more here from the Draft Dynasty Podcast and Fans for Sports. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. Keep drafting.